right, so we have now created a HubSpot form. And what we now want to do is everyone that fills in this form, we want to automatically register them to a webinar. Let's see how this is done. Right, so this is the form. Let's navigate back using the back button. And right here under automation, you will have workflows. So we're going to create a new workflow. Here you have all of the workflows. We're going to create a new workflow by clicking on create workflow right here from scratch. And now we're in the workflow builder. So in the workflow builder, what we're going to do is we're going to choose a trigger. So a trigger is essentially if this happens, then we're going to perform an action. So this is only the trigger part. So what we of course want is a form submission. We click here on form submission, and we're going to click on the form that we created earlier. So we have here the webinar registration form. We click on that. And right here, what we now have set up is anyone that fills in this form and completes it, so not just starts filling it in, but actually completes it, they will count as a trigger, okay? So we have the name, we have the email, etc. We can click here on next. We can also set up conditions. This is sometimes useful when you have a specific webinar that you want to apply these rules to. But for now, we're going to keep it simple and we're going to click next. There's the final option here, re-enroll. So we're going to turn this on simply because people sometimes forget that they have registered to a webinar. And when they refill in your form, we want to make sure that they receive another email from the webinar platform that they have been registered. Save and continue. And this is all there's essentially to be done on setting up the trigger. Now, of course, we want to use that information that people have provided in the form to register them to your webinar platform. This is going to be called a little bit differently depending on the webinar platform that you're using. We're going to use contrast, and I know by the top of my head, it's something called register attendee. So that's correct, register webinar attendee. We're going to click on that. And now what we can do is we can select a webinar name from the dropdown. So we're going to select my awesome webinar. This is the webinar that I created on my webinar platform. Not every webinar platform allows you to do this. Contrast does, of course. Most of them do. If they don't, maybe it's time to switch webinar platforms. But here we will select my awesome webinar. And what we can now do is we can click on save. And then that's all there is. So what we have now set up is a trigger. People fill in the form. Once they have done that, HubSpot uses this workflow to send that registration to Contrast. This, of course, requires that you have set up and connected your webinar platform to HubSpot. If you haven't done that, do that, please. But that's all there is really to it. Let's make sure that we give it, of course, a name. So register attendee from HubSpot form. I always recommend to give a super clear name and even maybe add a description here as well, so that everyone in the team knows what this workflow is doing. If you want to test that, that's possible here. You can test it with a test account, or you can just put it live completely. That's possible as well. Then you review, turn it on, and you test it yourself using your own information. Okay. There's a few options here that you might want to check out. I, for example, know that sometimes HubSpot has a filtering mechanism that will filter you out if you're testing it yourself. So I always recommend testing it with a different email address, etc. But this is all there is. So people fill in the webinar form on your website, then the information is passed to your webinar platform through the workflow from HubSpot, and then, of course, the registration should also appear in your webinar platform. Most webinar platforms like Contrast have it set up this way that you will automatically get a confirmation email, and you will also get the calendar invite right into your inbox. All right, final tip, if you have multiple webinars and you want to make sure and save yourself especially a lot of time, simply duplicate the workflow, okay? You keep the form, but you can now set it up to a different webinar in the action panel. Good luck.